In 2023, California saw an 11.1% increase in total reported crimes compared to 2022, with 1,004,996 incidents reported. California's violent crime rate is 31% higher than the national average. The violent crime rate increased by 6.1%, while the property crime rate went up by 5.2%. 10. Huntington Park. Your chance of being a victim of any crime in Huntington Park is roughly 1 in 24, with both violent and property crime contributing significantly. Huntington Park's overall crime rate is nearly double the national average, and significantly higher than most California cities. Area Vibes puts it at a staggering 4,584 per 100,000 residents, while Neighborhood Scout estimates it at 42 per 1,000 residents. Huntington Park, unfortunately, faces a significant challenge with violent crime. The violent crime rate in Huntington Park is estimated to be around 992 per 100,000 residents, which is nearly 4 times the national average. Huntington Park's property crime rate is 97% higher than the national average. It's also 77% higher than the California average. This means residents are much more likely to experience property crimes like theft, vandalism, and burglary. 9. Bakersfield. Bakersfield's overall crime rate is 94.4% higher than the national average. This means you're statistically more likely to be a victim of crime here compared to the rest of the United States. The city's crime rate translates to roughly 60.99 crimes per day, with 6.16 violent crimes. The violent crime rate in Bakersfield is 47.7% higher than the national average. This means you have a 1 in 110 chance of being a victim of a violent crime. The rate of violent crime in Bakersfield is 9 per 1,000 residents. According to Neighborhood Scout, the chance of becoming a victim of property crime in Bakersfield is 1 in 19, translating to a rate of 51 per 1,000 residents. This is significantly higher than the national average of 27.9 per 1,000 residents. Bakersfield has one of the highest rates of motor vehicle theft in the nation. The likelihood of having your car stolen in the city is 1 in 89, compared to the national average of 1 in 282. 8. Merced. Merced's total crime rate is 52% higher than the national average, with 45 crimes per 1,000 residents. The violent crime rate is 801 per 100,000 residents, placing Merced in the bottom 10% of all U.S. cities. This translates to a 1 in 22 chance of becoming a victim of any crime. The violent crime rate in Merced is particularly concerning, with 984 incidents per 100,000 residents. This translates to a 1 in 101 chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime. Property crime rates are also elevated in Merced, with 3,450 incidents per 100,000 residents. This means a 1 in 29 chance of experiencing property crime. Merced has a high rate of vehicle theft, with 640 incidents per 100,000 residents. This means a 1 in 156 chance of having your car stolen. The city's property crime rate is 42% higher than the national average. 7. Modesto. Compared to the national average, Modesto's overall crime rate is 66.2% higher. This means residents are more likely to be victims of both violent and property crimes. This means that there are 28.99 crimes reported per day in the city, on average. Of these, 8.57 are violent crimes, and 19.42 are property crimes. The violent crime rate in Modesto is particularly concerning. In 2021, there were 1,254 violent crimes per 100,000 residents, which is 106% higher than the national average. This translates to a 1 in 78 chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime. Property crime rates are also elevated in Modesto, with 3,503 property crimes per 100,000 residents, exceeding the national average by 22.9%. This means you're more likely to experience theft, burglary, or vandalism. 1 in 28 residents become victims of property crime annually, translating to a rate of 35 per 1,000 residents. Motor vehicle theft is a major concern, with Modesto having one of the highest rates in the nation. Burglary, larceny, and arson also contribute to the overall property crime rate. 6. Vallejo. Vallejo's total crime rate sits at 5,806 per 100,000 residents, exceeding the national average by 123.98%. This places it in the bottom 10% of all cities for reported violent crime. Vallejo, unfortunately, paints a concerning picture when it comes to violent crime. Vallejo's violent crime rate sits at around 1,216 per 100,000 residents, significantly higher than the national average of 379. This translates to a 1 in 82 chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime. According to data from 2022, the city experiences roughly 5,232 property crimes per 100,000 residents, compared to the national average of 2,591 per 100,000. This means that a resident of Vallejo is roughly 2 times more likely to be a victim of property crime than the average American. Vallejo has one of the highest rates of motor vehicle theft in the nation, making it particularly important to be vigilant about vehicle security. 5. Richmond. Richmond's crime rate is significantly higher than the national average. Some sources report it being 54% higher, while others estimate it's nearly double. This translates to 1 in 22 residents potentially experiencing a crime annually. Specifically focusing on violent crime, Richmond's rate is also higher than the national average. In 2022, the city saw 1,064 violent crimes reported, translating to a rate of 9.20 per 1,000 residents. The national average for violent crime rates is 4.03 per 1,000 residents. Richmond's property crime rate is 42 per 1,000 residents, meaning 1 in 23 residents will likely experience a property crime in a given year. This is 38.6% higher than the national average and 58% higher than the California average. Richmond has one of the highest rates of MVT in the nation, with 1 in 82 cars stolen annually. This translates to roughly 8.54 MVTs per day. Burglary rates are 40% higher than the national average, with 511 incidents in 2022. 4. Compton. Compton has a complex and evolving relationship with crime. While notorious for its past struggles with gang violence and high crime rates, sources like Area Vibes place it in the bottom 10% of all United States in terms of safety. A rate of 38 per 1,000 residents, compared to the national average of 49 per 1,000. This translates to a chance of being a victim of any crime in Compton as approximately 1 in 20. Area Vibes report a violent crime rate of 1,941 per 100,000 residents, placing it in the bottom 10% of all United States cities. This translates to a 1 in 51 chance of experiencing violent crime. While violent crime is a concern, property crime is even more prevalent. The rate of property crimes like burglary, theft, and carjacking is around 3,925 per 100,000 residents, significantly higher than the national average, which is 36.8% higher than the national average. This means the chance of being a victim of property crime in Compton is 1 in 25. 3. Oakland. Oakland's overall crime rate is significantly higher than the national average, and even higher than the California average. According to Neighborhood Scout, the city's crime rate is 70 per 1,000 residents, meaning 1 in 14 residents is likely to be a victim of crime. As of 2023, Oakland has a violent crime rate of 4,129 incidents per 100,000 residents, the national average of 3.79, and California's 6.33. This translates to a 1 in 25 chance of experiencing a violent crime in Oakland, compared to a 1 in 267 chance in the state. Oakland has a higher property crime rate than the national average, and the state average for California. In 2023, there were approximately 57 property crimes per 1,000 residents in Oakland. This means that you have a 1 in 17 chance of being a victim of a property crime in Oakland. Motor vehicle theft is the most common type of property crime in Oakland, with over 14,500 vehicles stolen in 2023. This represents a 45% increase compared to 2022. 2. San Bernardino. San Bernardino's overall crime rate is significantly higher than the national average, with estimates ranging from 78% to 132% higher. This places it among the most dangerous cities in both California and the United States. Unfortunately, San Bernardino consistently grapples with a high violent crime rate, significantly exceeding the national average. In 2022, the city recorded approximately 1,318 violent crimes per 100,000 residents, translating to a 1 in 75 chance of being a victim, which is over 220% higher than the national average. This translates to San Bernardino ranking among the most dangerous cities in the country, often falling within the bottom 10% based on FBI data. In 2021, the city had 7,978 property crimes reported, translating to 3,755 per 100,000 residents. This is 78.2% higher than the national average, and 82.4% higher than the California average. 1. Stockton. Stockton's overall crime rate is significantly higher than both the national and state averages. In 2023, the city had a crime rate of 4,259 crimes per 100,000 residents, compared to the national average of 2,580, and the California average of 3,269. This means that residents of Stockton are nearly twice as likely to be a victim of crime, compared to the average American. In 2023, the city had a violent crime rate of 1,277 per 100,000 residents, more than double the national average of 530. This translates to a 1 in 80 chance of being a victim of a violent crime in Stockton. Stockton's property crime rate is significantly higher than both the national and state averages. In 2023, the rate was approximately 3,944 incidents per 100,000 residents, translating to a 1 in 25 chance of becoming a victim. This alarmingly places Stockton 69.2% higher than the state average, and 86.9% above the national average.